Charles, you've been all over our airwaves today. I'm so grateful for your time, my friend. Charles, one thing that I really loved about you kind of joining us today for this YouTube live stream is that you've actually tried cases in that courthouse, Judge Merchan. And so I want you to let our viewers know what we're seeing of Judge Merchan is how he is. He's not being particularly, quote, meaner to Donald Trump or nicer to Donald Trump.
Right.
He's just being the judge that you know who he is.
That's absolutely correct, Katie. And I'm so glad you touched upon that so people can understand this is not something where there is an agenda. I think that it's important to understand that Donald Trump has done everything that he can to try and poison the well, if you will, around the public narrative. And that could lead to a number of different misconceptions, in addition to the motions that have been filed by his attorneys to try and get Judge Merchan to recuse himself. At the end of the day, this is a judge who is very much so someone who calls balls and strikes. He knows what's right from wrong, and he's going to be as fair as possible. He is a thoughtful judge, but he takes his job seriously, and he is not going to allow his name to be connected to ultimately some sort of circus or wildly extraordinary, ridiculous, and absurd event because he cannot control Donald Trump as a defendant. So I think what we're seeing of Judge Merchan not only is consistent, but it also reflects an understanding of the gravity of the moment and the fact that if he is not at all on guard at all times, this can quickly spiral out of control in a way that could prejudice one side or the other. And his interest as a judge is to make sure that he maintains an environment that allows for both sides to get the fair trial that the Constitution allows for both of them.
Yeah, so as I noted, you guys, you're tuning in, please put your questions in the chat because we definitely want to be able to answer them. Charles, we got a question, and Mary, too, if you want to answer, too, although it's a little bit legal. But I think, Mary, by now we all have a JD, frankly, because of all the news we've been doing. From P. Goddard, why did the judge set a later date to find if Trump violated the gag order? I thought Trump was told that if he violated it, he wouldn't get to know the jurors' names. I'm confused. Charles, really quickly, can you kind of explain why we now have a hearing coming up on April 23rd at 9:30 in the morning for those violations of the gag order?
Well, there was a request from the defense that the judge find that Donald Trump, with more of his recent posts on social media, had violated the gag order. I think that Judge Merchan, first of all, there are two things that are happening. Number one, Donald Trump has consistently in all of his criminal trials done a job of putting a lot of pressure on the refs. And what do I mean by that is he's essentially daring the judges in each of his cases to do something. Give me a consequence. Why? Because I'm going to figure out a way, one way or the other, to either turn this into an opportunity to delay the trial further through an appeal or some other petition for relief because of the consequence, or B, I'm going to try and turn this into some level of a windfall for me to spin the narrative and create a degree of support, whether it's fundraising and or votes, based off of whatever unjust penalty that you've invoked upon me. And he also knows that on the other end, judges are concerned about creating issues that are reversible or reversible error or that can be appealed. And so they don't necessarily want to do that. Not to mention, we all have to consider the practicality of it. Trying to incarcerate or put into custody a former president of the United States of America is a nightmare.
Because he'll be safe, Charles. There's no safer place than him being in jail, right? I mean,
right,
it's not like
exactly. It's a logistical nightmare, and I think that if you're the judge who's responsible for, because I really, Katie, you have practiced in state court, so I think it's important for people to understand this. When you talk about delay, when you talk about having a trial, if Donald Trump is placed into custody for contempt, for example, and he's being held at Rikers Island in New York City, that means that before the trial every day, Donald Trump has to get on the bus and corrections has to bring him in. They have to search. It creates an entire mess of a mess. And this is someone who is constitutionally granted Secret Service protection where he goes. And so it's a logistical nightmare. And he knows that, which is another reason why he pushes the envelope as much as he does. So Judge Merchan is waiting for a week because he really got to think through, if I want to say that he's violated this gag order, am I prepared to levy the penalties and or begin this cycle? Because if I say $1,000 a day, like, or $1,000 per instance, like the prosecutors have asked, and he keeps doing it, at some point I have to be prepared to potentially up the ante. So am I even going to begin to go down this road knowing where it could take me potentially and what that might mean for me to be able to maintain control of this trial?
Okay, so Mary, my question to you then is, because we're going to bring it up right now, this is what Donald Trump does during lunch. Okay, knowing he's violated this gag order, we're going to bring it up on our screen right now. This is what, oh wait, it's going to take us a second. So while it's taking us a second, Mary, my question to you dovetails with what Charles just said. I personally don't care if it's a logistical nightmare. And I'm not trying to be flippant. I'm not trying to be casual. Charles knows I can be both, but I do not want to be that. But I feel like if you give someone like Donald Trump, oh wait, here we go. Mary, I hope you viewers, you can see this right now. This is what came up today. I mean, this guy is tweeting, posting whatever from court, which I think is rude in and of itself, by the way. Judge Juan Merchan, perhaps the most highly conflicted judge in New York State history, only gave us a short period of time to read and study hundreds of thousands of pages of documents that DA Alvin Bragg illegally hid, disguised, and held back from us. Of course, and as the judge knows, we need far more time than that. They could have started this fake Biden trial many years ago, not right in the middle of my campaign for president, and time would not be a problem. This is a blatant and unprecedented attack on crooked Joe Biden's political opponent, who is leading in every poll. He talks about himself in the third person, done in close coordination with the White House that cannot be allowed to go forward. Okay, all of that is not true. It's all a lie, substantively, procedurally, etc. So my question for you, Mary, I got a problem with giving this man favored child status in any way. Charles and I were on a panel together. I think I said, you can't give this man, it's not a double standard. It's like this, it's a Trump effect. It's the Trump effect, right? Not you, Mary, because you're the only good one, right? But how do you reconcile this? Because to Charles's point, Mary, he's pushing boundaries. He's daring, something to happen. And yet with any other criminal defendant, as Charles knows, we wouldn't be even this far along in the process. So how does this actually inure it to Trump's benefit to keep on pushing those boundaries? How does it embolden and empower him?
Yeah, first of all, I'm just reminded that having to deal with his hyperbole and his just absolute drama, over-the-top drama and repetition every day for weeks on end is not going to be to his benefit in the long run. So there's that. But listen, Katie, Donald Trump has gotten where he is in part because he's always willing to push the envelope beyond where pretty much anybody else would dare. And 99.999% of the times he gets away with it. So what does he do? He doubles down, he triples down, he quadruples down, he pushes the envelope some more. Nobody, and this blows my mind, and all of us should have our minds blown by this and never get used to it. Nobody has come up with an idea to hold him accountable in a way that matters to him. So you know what? Does he really need to go to Rikers? Can't they find a little room for him in the courthouse where he's just sequestered and guarded outside by Secret Service and is not allowed access to his phone, so he can't fundraise during his criminal trial? I mean, come on, come up with it. It's like prison, right? Well, he doesn't have to go to an actual prison. He could go to an army base or something. I don't know. There are all sorts of ways that haven't been explored. And I think, again, it's doing the rest of us. It's doing all of the people who are currently at Rikers Island or who have been in the past on false charges, who have not been allowed due process. It's doing all of them a disservice. And we are, by continuing to delay, and again, I don't disagree with Charles. I know that all of that has to be factored in for the many complex reasons he pointed to. I understand that. Like, it's really easy for me to say, hey, come on, this should be simple. It's not simple. However, this is so important. There have to be ways to demonstrate to the American people that when it's all said and done, we are finished with this two-tiered justice system. We finally, at the end of the day, realize the consequences of allowing somebody like Donald Trump to continue to skate, because look where we are. This is a man who incited an insurrection against his own government, running to lead that government again. It has to stop.
Hey, everyone. MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.